Maggie Albright stared at her phone, thumb hovering over her daughter's name, Emily. Her heart beat faster with every ring, the same anxious rhythm she used to feel before a big job interview. It had been weeks since they last spoke. Surely Emily would pick up with good news. Maybe a wedding date, a dress fitting, something to remind Maggie that she still belonged. Finally, a click. "Mom?" Emily's voice was distant, distracted. "Oh, sweetheart," Maggie said softly, relief pouring through her. "I was just wondering when the wedding's gonna be." There was a pause, one heartbeat, then two. Then Emily's voice came back, sharper this time. "Oh, we got married yesterday. Just a small thing. You know, only for special people." The words echoed like glass breaking. Maggie froze, the phone pressed against her ear. In the corner of the room, the lavender dress she'd bought months ago hung untouched, waiting for a day that had already happened without her. Her knees weakened. She sank into the chair, eyes fixed on the dress that now looked more like a costume from a play she was never cast in. On the other end, Emily said she was busy, about heading to brunch. Maggie barely heard it. The line went dead, and for the first time in her life, silence felt heavier than heartbreak. "My name is Maggie Albright. I'm 61 years old, retired, and, until a few weeks ago, I thought I was a good mother. I believed love meant giving, no matter how much it took from you. But that day, when my daughter said she'd married only for special people, something inside me broke quietly. That night, I couldn't sleep. The house felt too big, too still. I kept the lights off, sitting in the dark with only the faint hum of the refrigerator keeping me company. Across the room, the lavender dress I'd bought for her wedding still hung on the closet door, soft, perfect, and waiting. I had imagined standing beside Emily, smiling for photographs that would last a lifetime. Now, it looked like a cruel joke, a reminder that love, when one-sided, can make a fool out of you. I walked closer and touched the fabric. It felt cold under my fingers. Next to it, on the bed, lay the unopened shoebox. Silver heels I'd chosen carefully, thinking how they'd catch the light when I danced at her wedding. And on the nightstand, an envelope. 10 crisp $100 bills, saved to bless her new beginning. All of it untouched, all of it useless. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the pieces of a dream I'd paid for. And for the first time, I wondered, when did love start feeling like debt?
You ever scroll through your phone and find a version of your life that doesn't include you? That's what happened to me. The morning after that phone call, I sat at the kitchen table, still in my robe, a cold cup of coffee untouched beside me. My hands were shaking when I opened Facebook. There it was, Emily's wedding album. Post after post, smiling faces, champagne glasses clinking under fairy lights. Her caption read, "Married my best friend, surrounded by family and love." Family and love. I stared at that line for a long time. Every photo was beautiful. Ryan and his tailored suit, Emily glowing in white lace, her in-laws beside her, her friends, her bridesmaids, even the dog had a bow tie. Everyone was there. Everyone. Except me. And in one photo, I saw it. The bracelet on her wrist. The one I gave her for her 18th birthday. She'd worn it that night, the same night she told me she didn't need my help anymore. The comments below the post were full of hearts and blessings. I typed one too. "You look beautiful, sweetheart." Then I deleted it. I set the phone down. My reflection stared back from the black screen. Tired eyes, messy hair, coffee gone cold. That's when I realized something simple and cruel. Love isn't blind. It just pretends not to see until the light hits your screen.
3 days passed after I saw those photos. 3 days of silence. Then my phone lit up again. Emily. For a second, my heart still jumped. That reflex you can't unlearn, even after the hurt. I picked up. "Hey, Mom," she said quickly, like she was in a hurry. "Listen, the rent's due and Ryan's check didn't clear. Could you maybe—" I closed my eyes. The words were so familiar they almost sounded rehearsed. In the corner, the lavender dress still hung, untouched. The envelope of cash still sat on my nightstand. I almost reached for my purse. Almost. But something in me stopped. For the first time, I heard her voice differently, not as my daughter's, but as someone who'd learned that love could be leveraged. So I took a deep breath and said, "Didn't I tell you, Emily? I only help special people." Silence. The kind that stretches, thick and heavy. "Mom, what's that supposed to mean?" she snapped. "It means I'm done being your safety net. You cut me out of your wedding. You made your choice. Now live with it." A pause. Then, "Wow, you're unbelievable." And she hung up. The line went dead. I set the phone down, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. It didn't sound like anger. It sounded like freedom. That night, I couldn't sleep again. Not because I missed her voice, but because I finally heard my own. I went to the kitchen and pulled out an old box from the cabinet, the one where I kept every receipt, every transfer note, every little favor I'd sent her way. Electric bills, car repairs, groceries, deposits labeled "just until you're settled." I laid them out across the table like puzzle pieces of a life I didn't realize I'd been paying for. I grabbed a pen and started adding, slowly, carefully, one line after another. $200 here, $400 there, $1,200 that Christmas when she said she couldn't afford gifts. By the time I was done, my hands were shaking. $33,400. $33,400. Gone. I stared at that number. It didn't even feel real. How do you put a price on love? How do you measure disappointment in dollars and cents? The old clock ticked louder. The rain outside softened to a whisper. I picked up my husband's photo from the shelf, the one of him smiling on our porch, coffee in hand. I whispered, "I spent your savings buying respect that never existed." My reflection in the window looked tired, but not weak. Something in me had changed. Maybe love doesn't need revenge. It just needs boundaries. I turned off the lights, leaving the receipts spread across the table. A paper trail of lessons I should have learned years ago. It was a Saturday morning. Gray skies, the kind that make you want to stay in bed with a book and tea. I just poured my coffee when the doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw them. Emily, Ryan, and a man in a suit holding a briefcase. I froze for a moment. My heart didn't leap this time. It braced. I opened the door slowly. "Mom," Emily chirped, her smile too wide, too bright. "We were in the neighborhood." Ryan stepped forward, his hand on her shoulder. "He wanted to check on you. We know it's been a lot lately." The man in the suit cleared his throat. "Mrs. Albright, I'm Daniel Clark. Your daughter asked me to go over some paperwork with you, just to make sure your finances are managed properly." My stomach sank. They'd come with papers. I looked at Emily, really looked at her. The girl I raised, now standing like a stranger in my doorway, hiding greed behind concern. I took the folder from Daniel's hand. I didn't even open it. I walked to the trash can, lifted the lid, and dropped it in. The sound of paper hitting plastic echoed louder than any argument. "Mom!" Emily snapped, her voice sharp now. "We're trying to help you." I turned back to her, calm, steady. "No, sweetheart. You're trying to own me, and that's not going to happen." Ryan muttered something under his breath. I stepped closer. "Emily, the only transition happening here is yours, to the front door." 3 days after I threw those papers in the trash, there was another knock on my door. Not Emily this time, a woman in a gray blazer holding a clipboard. "Mrs. Albright?" she asked gently. "I'm with Adult Protective Services. We've received a report that you might be struggling to care for yourself, possibly showing signs of confusion or memory loss." For a second, I didn't understand. Then it hit me like cold water. Emily. Of course. When you take control away from people who live off you, they don't let go quietly. I smiled politely and stepped aside. "Come in." Her eyes scanned the house, the clean kitchen, the books neatly stacked, the notes on my fridge. She asked questions. "How do you handle your bills? Do you remember your medications? Any family supporting you financially?" Each question felt like a test I never signed up for. When she left, she said softly, "You seem perfectly capable, Mrs. Albright, but sometimes families worry." After the door closed, I called Mr. Weber, my lawyer. He listened quietly, then sighed. "It's not uncommon. When money's involved, love gets complicated. But don't worry, we'll document everything." I sat in silence for a long time after hanging up. The house, once peaceful, now felt smaller, like someone had cracked open my privacy and taken something invisible from me. I looked at the phone, half expecting it to ring again, but it didn't. And that's when I realized this wasn't about love anymore. It was a war for control, and I wasn't going to lose. The courthouse smelled like old paper and polished floors. I sat at the long wooden table beside Mr. Weber, clutching my reading glasses like a shield. Across from me, Emily and Ryan. She looked perfect, as always, hair curled, wearing black, the color of innocence in disguise. When the judge entered, the room fell silent. Emily's lawyer went first. He spoke about concerns, about my supposed forgetfulness, my emotional instability, and how Emily only wanted to protect me. Every word felt rehearsed, smooth, practiced. Then Emily took the stand. She dabbed her eyes delicately with a tissue. "My mom's just not herself lately. She's been confused, irrational. I'm scared she's being taken advantage of." I wanted to speak, but Mr. Weber's hand on my arm told me to wait. When it was our turn, he stood slowly, his voice calm. "Mrs. Albright, can you tell the court who pays your bills?" "I do," I said clearly. "Who manages your medications?" "I do, and I haven't missed a single one." He nodded, then turned to Emily. "Ms. Coper, when was the last time you called your mother without asking for money?" The question hung in the air. Emily froze. Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The room went still. Even Ryan looked away. Judge Miller adjusted his glasses, his voice measured but final. "We'll reconvene tomorrow for a decision. Until then, Mrs. Albright, you're free to go." As I stood, I caught Emily's eyes. For the first time, she looked uncertain, like the power she'd built on lies was beginning to crack, and I walked out of that courtroom taller than I'd felt in years. The next morning, the courtroom felt colder. Sunlight filtered weakly through the blinds, striping the floor in pale gold. I sat in the same chair as yesterday, hands clasped, heart pounding in my ears. Emily avoided my eyes. Ryan whispered something to her, but she just stared at the judge's bench, her jaw tight. When Judge Miller entered, everyone rose. He adjusted his glasses, cleared his throat, and began reading from the file. Each word felt like the longest breath of my life. After reviewing the evidence, he said, his tone steady, this court finds that Mrs. Margaret Albright is fully competent and capable of managing her own affairs. For a second, I couldn't breathe. Then his next words came like thunder, and mercy rolled into one. What I do see, he continued, is a clear attempt at financial exploitation under the guise of guardianship. The petition is denied. The room seemed to exhale all at once. Mr. Weber smiled quietly beside me. I felt my hands tremble. Not from fear this time, but from release. Years of silence, shame, and self-doubt melted under the warmth of truth. Across the aisle, Emily's face twisted, anger, disbelief, and something almost like guilt flickering beneath it. She leaned in as she passed me, her whisper sharp as glass. You'll regret this, Mom. You'll die alone. I looked at her, really looked, and said softly, better alone with peace than surrounded by thieves. Outside, sunlight spilled across the courthouse steps. I breathed it in like freedom. For the first time in years, I wasn't someone's provider or victim. I was just Maggie Albright. And I had finally won myself back. It's been 6 months since that day in court. Funny how quickly silence turns from an ache into a kind of peace. I sold the old house. Every wall in it still whispered their voices. Now I wake up in a sunlit apartment overlooking the city. The morning smell of roasted coffee and fresh bread from the cafe downstairs. No demands, no guilt. Just me and the hum of life outside my window. I spend my days volunteering at a senior support group. We teach people how to recognize financial abuse, the quiet kind that hides behind "I love yous" and "we just want to help." Sometimes when I tell my story, I see tears well up in strangers' eyes. And for once, I don't feel shame. I feel strength. Because my scars have become someone else's warning and someone else's hope. Last month, I stood in Florence, sketchbook in hand, tracing the cathedral's lines with shaking fingers. I thought of Robert, how he would have smiled to see me there, free, living for myself. In New Orleans, I even danced. Badly. But joy doesn't care how you move, only that you do. Tonight, I sit on my balcony, coffee warm in my hands, the city lights glittering below. My phone buzzes once, a message from Emily. "Mom, can we talk?" I stare at it for a long moment, then type slowly. Begin with an apology, not an amount. Then I turn the phone face down. The stars look brighter than I remember. And I whisper to the night, love isn't debt, it's choice. And for the first time in years, I feel free.